Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, Oliver Sholem, of blessed memory, former chief rabbi of England, a great person, a great Jewish leader, tremendous following and influence on people around the world until today. Not so long ago, was interviewed by Tim Ferriss about his life story, and he related how he came into the rabbinate by a one meeting that he had with the Rebbe as a student in Cambridge, and where the Rebbe directed him away from his original plan of law or philosophy or mathematics, and the Rebbe encouraged him to go into the rabbinate, and indeed he rose the ranks to become one of the most popular chief rabbis in England. So Tim Ferriss at one point asks him, "You speak so highly and reverently about the Rebbe. What is the difference between Rebbe and a rabbi?" Rabbi Sachs, in his brilliance and eloquence, says the following: when the Rebbe speaks even to 1,000 people, everyone knows and feels that the Rebbe speaks to him or her directly. When the rabbi speaks, even when he speaks only to 100 people, everybody thinks he's talking to someone else. What an answer. So I'm not going to belabor the second part of it, but I want to focus on the first part. What does that mean? And indeed, how is that? That when the Rebbe speaks to the people, a great assembly, thousands of people there in the synagogue, hundreds of thousands of people following him on TV, on YouTube, and whatever it is today that you can hear, and you feel the Rebbe is talking to you. Why? So let's go back to the first Rebbe. Our first Rebbe was Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe, our Rebbe. Where the Torah says in the Devarim, chapter 5, Pasuk 5, Anochi oimed ben Hashem ubenechem. I stood between you, between God and you. Lahagid lechem es devar Hashem. To tell you the word of God. On Mount Sinai, I stood between God and you to tell you the word of God. Every Nasi, every leader of the generation is considered the Moshe of the generation, the Moshe Rabbeinu of the generation. And indeed, whatever Moshe Rabbeinu says, whatever the Rebbe says, is the word of God, impacting every aspect of our life, because God directs and tells us how one should behave at every given moment of the day. So he speaks directly to each one of us, because he's our neshama. He's the neshama klalis. He's the general soul, and all our souls are linked to him. He feels us, he knows us, and we hear him. Former chief rabbi of the Israeli Defense Force, Rav Gad Navon, came to the Rebbe at the end of the war in Lebanon, and with a broken heart he shared to the Rebbe that unfortunately there were 56 Israeli casualties. I think he said the number 56. And the Rebbe looks at him in sadness, says, one more, 57. He looks at the Rebbe and says, Rebbe, the protocol in Israel is that I am the very first one to be notified about the passing of a soldier, because it is my duty to dispatch someone, an officer, to notify the next of kin. Even if I travel, I must know first. How do you know the number that I have? So the Rebbe tells him, unfortunately, during your travels, a wounded soldier just passed away. And I want you to know that every single soul that comes into this world and departs from this world passes this room. Neshama Klalis, a general soul, knows the comings and the goings of every single soul of our generation. So, on this day, when we thank God for giving us the gift of the Rebbe 70 years ago, let us heed his call, where he called upon us to do one more mitzvah, one more good deed, to bring the world to the end of its journey, The world started journeying from Garden of Eden, went through the turbulent waters of Noah, the flood, traveled with Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, who ended up in Egypt as slave, and we came into the desert to receive the Torah, become a nation, coming into Israel. Upheavals on the world, all kinds of nations coming and going. Let me take a leap forward. Industrial revolution, world wars, devastating Holocaust, mass emigration, expulsion of the Sephardic communities from North Africa and the Middle East. And now, a pandemic. But indeed, this is the end of the journey. All we need, as the Rebbe says, one more mitzvah, one more good deed, and we will all be together in Jerusalem with Mashiach. May this happen today.